Thank you, Commissioner, for being with us today. I really appreciate your testimony and your collaboration on previous solar iterations that we've had last session, and for your team as well. I am wondering two things about primarily related to the governor's bill 5052. The first is we've been talking a lot across our sort of solar prospect about equitable access to solar in different communities. And one of the biggest concerns that I have as we talk about solar expansion is the proportion of the solar generation load that's borne by communities and the proportion of the solar load that's available for certain communities to receive. And something that we've sort of talked about in the past, and this happened, outside of this public hearing, but I'm hoping you can sort of recap on, is that there is limited capacity in certain communities for expanding solar because there's limitations to grid capacity. And that might mean certain communities like mine that have the vast share of the state's solar portfolio sited within our community do not have capacity within any relative radius to do any school-based investments because the majority of load has been gobbled up by projects locally and nothing has been left for municipal interests or interest of businesses locally. And so I'm curious if you believe that there's an avenue to address that shortcoming in grid planning, in capacity planning in this bill as we move forward, because these are incentives. They're going to have ratepayer impacts that go across the entire state. My constituents are going to pay ratepayer impact on it and then not potentially draw municipal benefit because there's not capacity left for my local dairy farm that wants to expand solar on rooftop because it's been used by projects that are outsourced. And there's also not going to be capacity for my local schools to put solar on rooftops.
I think your comments are really highlighting the importance of getting these policies right trying to achieve the right balance between equitable sharing and the benefits that the participants get from these programs, right? Because for the participant, if they're a residential single-family homeowner, or, well, you just mentioned a number of potential participants in your community, right? There's really significant benefits at stake in terms of having the opportunity to offset your energy costs. But at the same time, as I was kind of describing earlier, and I think Senator Fazio's question is getting to this a little bit as well, there are locational, right, depending on where you are on the grid, at some point with a certain level of deployment of solar resources, there will be investments that are going to be required on the transmission system and so on in order to be able to reliably integrate more distributed solar. And so those investments can be costly, and some of them are getting absorbed by the participant or the developer in paying the cost of interconnection. And at a greater scale, they could be socialized across all ratepayers. So it's important for us to balance that piece as well.